Hey, this is Ryan Steele, and you're listening to the Give and Go podcast.
Hey, this is Mitch Shreve of the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. Unfortunately, during the filming of this episode, we had some recording issues and we lost the first part of this episode. So what you will be tuning into is where we picked up. Thanks for tuning in. All right, here we go. All right, we're coming back. We experienced some technical difficulties. Ben, go ahead and get back to what you were saying.
I think where I was at is I was comparing, Luka now to when LeBron made the finals for the first time. And the degree of difficulty, maybe in a sense, is even harder for Luka than it was for LeBron, just because being in the West and everything right now, I think is even more difficult than the East was then. It is interesting to think about if you switched places of the two, though, right? Like that's an interesting intellectual exercise and maybe illustrates the level of skill and talent and dominance of Luka right now is I don't know if it's a wash or not. I just don't know.
I would say the difference, I think he's the most skilled 22 as far as basketball skills. Now, physically gifted, no. MJ, LeBron, Kareem. There's I think there's mad, even like guys who DeMar DeRozan are more physically gifted, but as far as just absolutely basketball skill, being like we talked about off air, being almost a Chris Polish on the point guard level of snaking screens and get people on your hip and manipulating every possession. And then, I also have James Harden take over ISO game to step back from, 28 feet and fade on you and hit this. And then, I'm 6'7". I can LeBron throw a laser pass to the corner for a wide open three. Like, to be 22, man, and to have all that in this bag, I mean, that's a different level of skill that we've seen from 22-year-olds. So
I'll agree with that. All right, sticking with the West, let's move to another pretty big series. And as we're recording this right now, we're actually kind of watching this one, the Suns and the Lakers. And I think we have a lot that we can go on with this one too.
So I think sticking with the LeBron theme, I'm a bigger LeBron fan than you guys are, and then most people are. But what we've seen from him through 5 games in this series has been pretty disappointing. Yeah. I think we all agree. I think fans, people that don't hate him can even agree with this. It's not some controversial statement. We watched him give up in Game 5. I think it was pretty evident and clear. There were multiple possessions where he gave no effort. He let it's not all his fault, but he let them get down and then didn't try anymore, had it on the bench. I don't understand. He's always flopped. He's always cried about calls. I get it. That's kind of the game now, but I don't know. I feel like I expect more out of a guy who I hold in such high standards as like one of the all-time top probably. Yeah. He's a Mount Rushmore player. Let's be honest. Like he's a Mount Rushmore guy. And just I don't know, to go out like that was just sorry. And then now as we're recording this, we're almost at the end of the first quarter in Game 6, and they just are getting waxed, and it's just I don't know, it's just weird. I figured he would just give it all, but it just kind of disappointing for me.
So I have 2 thoughts on this, and one is maybe a mini defense of it of him, and then the other one is how I really feel. And the mini defense is we don't know how hurt maybe he actually is.
Right. He's definitely not 100%. Right. I'll give him that. Yeah.
/ he knows he's old, so maybe he's trying to be super logical and conserve himself for the moment, and then we'll see vintage LeBron. But here's how I actually feel watching him. And it was in Game 4, late in that game. They were still in it. But somebody, I think it was Schroeder missed a layup. I think it was Schroeder. And
it was like 7 points with like a minute 50 left or something.
And he literally quit on the possession. He didn't even walk back on defense. And there's a dagger 3 hit by Crowder. The game's essentially over. To me, as a high school basketball coach, if a player did that, even my best player, he would get chewed out. Now, you can't chew out LeBron James. But
and
come
most
on,
NBA
man.
players for that matter.
But come on, man. Like, and then second, I didn't love his demeanor in Game 5 in this sense. If you're going to go down as an all-time great, I think you have to go down swinging, right? Like, like in Rocky, you go down swinging, right? You might lose the fight, but you go every round. Or to make a basketball analogy, when the Warriors lost to Toronto and they just had nobody left in the series, they still played like champions, even though they lost the game, right?
I don't even think we need to dress it up as all-time great. I think if you're any player worth a damn, you got to go, go out on your sword.
Well, Ben, I think you said it best off air when you and I were just talking. I think you said it great. Would you ever see Michael Jordan quit on a game like that? Would you ever see Kobe Bryant quit on a game like that?
And look, like I know you can make the argument that they played their mind games too at different times to prove a point, but in the moments of like win or go home, or I need to score every possession.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the Kobe mentality, and I'm not even a huge Kobe fan, they're going to go for it, right? They're not going to rest on, oh, my team just wasn't there tonight. There just wasn't enough talent. We had injuries. They're not going to do that.
They're not going to go lay on built-in excuses to say, oh, whatever.
And even if they go, 10 of 40, they're going down gunning, trying to win the game if they have to by themselves. And I don't know if I get that sense from LeBron right now. And I want to see it tonight because they're getting their asses beat as we're taping this.
Right. 33-12, I have it on mine with 40 seconds.
At the end of the first quarter, they're down 22 points.
Which makes you beg the question, we brought this up earlier, is it maybe he is more hurt than what he's letting on? He's 36 years old. He just doesn't have that left in him, which is what we'll kind of get into next. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and we'll get into that question and seg into what my next question for you guys. Ryan Steele, Ben Sperry. This is the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. Right before our break, we were starting to get in the topic of injuries and how they've kind of affected and shaped this playoff series, because I think there's been several of them that have greatly affected it. So, when you look at Murray, AD, and we brought this up a couple weeks ago too, I believe, but let's look at it now as we can look at these playoff series. Ben, I think you said you wanted to say something about it. Or maybe
so to me, I don't want injuries to determine – I don't think anybody does – who ends up being the champion, right? And you don't also want excuses looking back that, oh, this team only won because they didn't have to go through the other team's best. And right now, you could argue the Lakers just don't have enough health to be able to compete at a high level. Denver might have been a legitimate contender if they were completely healthy. But, even low-key injuries that you play through, like Embiid not being 100% changes Philadelphia's, playoff chances to –
And whether they might have – when they can wrap a series up maybe in 4, now they got to go 7 or something. Yeah. It wears on you down the line.
Mm-hmm. And, Chris Paul getting hurt damn near shifted the Lakers-Suns series until AD got hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And heaven forbid if with some of these teams that are now super reliant on one great player, like when Luka looked like he had a neck injury, that took all the fun out of that series for one game. And then he seemed fine the next game and dominated. But, if you take the best player off of one of these teams, it really does ruin the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And even on a smaller scale, Donovan Mitchell misses that first game, only game they lose to the Grizzlies team. The Heat basically kind of hinge their season on a midseason trade to get Oladipo. He plays 3 games, never comes back for the playoffs. I mean, you look at all these series, they at least had 1 or 2 injuries that seem like to really haunt a team either way. So, look, you can't – Adam Silver can't click the button on 2K and turn injuries off, but it does kind of suck. And then I think even a bigger, thing that maybe we're not talking about as much is if we look at these last year's bubble, the last 4, the final 4 teams, your Celtics, Heat, Lakers, and Nuggets, they just seem physically broken. AD obviously broken. LeBron is not himself. They seem like they're fatigued. The Nuggets, Jamal Murray, done. They've had injuries throughout the year. Heat and the Celtics don't even look like the same team we saw last year. So I think there's something to that. I wouldn't say you could base everything on that, but, you know, for a weird year to play basketball all the way into October, it definitely seems like it drained some of these teams from that injury standpoint.
I would say, though, I don't think – because there will be historical consequences, say, if the Lakers lose in the first round. They can't really use that as an excuse to some degree, because Chris Paul and LeBron James basically run the Players Association. If they wanted to move the season back a couple months, they probably could have. They probably could have made that happen. But,
I mean, look, that can't be the only reason because I mean, look at the Nuggets; they're without their second best player. They've advanced, so you know this is the Lakers team that has played an injured Chris Paul throughout this series. I mean, you still got to make headway.
My belief in this whole thing is okay, I get it. There's just elite players like the ADs and LeBrons of the world, but you are still playing amongst the greatest players in the world, you know, in the NBA. So I would have to think you have to have that, okay, next person up mentality, and you can still have to be able to go out and win basketball games. And
look, maybe AD wasn't 100% coming into the series even before the groin injury, but he was getting his butt handed to him by DeAndre Ayton at least half this series anyways. So, you know, maybe it's just these young bucks are coming up too, because the Suns are winning just as much because of the development of Ayton and Devin Booker as anything.
Dude, DeAndre Ayton looked like he was wearing members-only jackets in the late 80s. Yo, he looks so –
he's definitely in that Greg Oden class of looking real old.
Yo, my man looks rough. He looks beat. I don't understand this.
All right, so I'm gonna pose another question here, and we're gonna put this in the dislikes column, and I think I might spark some debate and push Ben's buttons a little bit with this one. But there has been a few games on that we have all wanted to watch, but we really haven't been able to watch. I think for one, the Blazers and the Nuggets are in that category, and I'm going to bring up NBA TV. Ben, give me your thoughts on that.
So look, you almost have to preface this with the Blazers Nuggets, even though the Nuggets just capped it off in 6 tonight, was it a spectacular series. We had an all-timer game in Game 5. Guns blazing from Dame, and the Nuggets still won in double overtime. But 2 of their games got relegated to NBA TV. And NBA TV is not easy to actually get, it turns out. I had NBA League Pass this year, and believe it or not, this does not come with NBA TV, despite it costing like $180 a year to have. On top of that, you can't just usually get it from even your cable TV provider unless you want to buy a whole bunch of crap you don't want. $20 a month for another tier of television shows for the whole year just to get a couple of playoff games, because that's what we're talking about, before they stop being on NBA TV altogether in the second round, is just not a good value proposition. Like, Adam Silver, get it together and get with these cable providers, figure it out so that, even if it's $5 a month, let us get NBA TV so we don't miss moments. Because there's a lot of people that missed moments in these series, especially the Nuggets Blazers, because it's on a channel nobody can get unless you figured out how to get the right channels on your cable providers.
And look, I will give them a little leeway here, because usually the way it works out is, so like Jazz and Grizzlies would usually work out where their games are on. Because, cool, 4-1, nobody really cares. Not a marquee matchup.
And it was perfect like years ago. The team that they used to put on there was the Joe Johnson Atlanta Hawks series, and that's perfect. Nobody wanted to watch them anyways.
Or if the Bobcats made the first round or something.
Perfect.
But I will say, I do agree with all that you said. But as we're recording this, if people are going to listen to it, we do sound like some broke boys crying over a few bucks to watch some basketball. I'm with you. I agree. I'm not saying I disagree.
But the thing is, I'm not being broke. I paid $180 a year to watch NBA League Pass.
How are you not
giving me NBA TV right now? I almost spent $20 a month for the rest of the year to watch the second half of Blazers Nuggets.
Right on.
When I saw what was happening in the game. And I didn't do it because I thought it'd be stupid, but like, come on, man. Like, just make it available somehow.
Mm-hmm.
At least legally, because what you're going to do is you're just going to drive people to find illegal streams online. Come on.
I think the name of this pod should be Ben versus NBA TV. Hey, every man's got to stand for something, Benny. Every man's got to have a code. I like it.
I'll at least put it in the description. All right. And then the final thing that I think we should talk about here is we're going to get away from NBA here a little bit. The college world received a blow with Coach Mike Shashefsky announcing his retirement at the end of this upcoming season in 2022. Now I know Mike is outflanked on this podcast at least by a couple UNC guys, but still, when you look at in terms of the basketball world, what he did, kind of revolutionizing college basketball a little bit in the 90s and whatnot. And then Team USA, I think his resume is pretty outstanding. So give us some thoughts on the retirement of Mike Shashefsky, or the announcement of his retirement at least. And what's going to happen with Tobacco Road and the ACC and upcoming years after he's gone.
So what? Go ahead.
So I mean, for me, it's a crazy end of an era because from the time I was born into being a Carolina fan, when I'm like 6-7 years old watching, I was almost made to hate and root against them. And, you get older and you become, almost had an admiration for such a good coach and the way he runs his program. And one thing I don't think he gets enough credit for is he came up under Bobby Knight, who's an all-time just jackass. Like, rude to his players, would put his hands on them. And that was kind of your mentor. And I think he took some of that toughness and grit and used it at Duke as far as like tough-nosed defense and stuff. But I think he was such a player's coach added with that. And I think that's one thing that that to me is his greatness. Like to have that hard-nosed, tough mentality, but also just always hold down your players. That's one of my favorite things about Coach K. Big-time player and power. So that's one thing I'll miss about him. I definitely am not going to miss him killing the ACC. And I'm glad John Shire got it because he's a bum, so I'm cool there.
Ben?
Well, so I just have a couple questions because, North Carolina had a legacy that even predated, Roy Williams being. I don't
even Dean Smith. I mean,
yeah,
right. So it seems like, and I could be corrected by another basketball historian on this, but that Duke's legacy was primarily built on
totally
Coach K.
Totally built.
Built.
He has the court named after him for a reason.
Yes.
And so where do they go from here? Is there a natural successor for him?
It is John Shire.
Is that the natural successor?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, he's already been selected as.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but does that make sense? He's
the associate head coach currently, and he's been in that. He's been an assistant for what now?
Right, I've seen him on the sideline for at least 5 years or so.
Yeah.
So it could be longer. I don't know the exact dates, but he's been on the sideline for a while.
Me personally, I always thought that Jeff Capel would have a name, but I understand he left and went to Pitt and went to do his own thing, but when
he's
Roy
been
Williams,
tainted by other schools.
Yeah, when Roy
they want
Williams,
that pure Duke blood,
and that's kind of what I think is happening. When Roy retired, they opened up. They went, they interviewed, they brought people in. Pretty much from the moment Coach K retired, it was like, okay, John Shire's our guy.
Does that make sense?
I like that though.
Is he able to continue the legacy? Is he able to build upon, keep the cachet high? And
but here's the thing: how can we even talk on it? We never seen this man coach. How do we know?
Yeah,
I guess he's done good in the recruiting world. He helped sign Brandon Ingram and Cam Reddish and a few players throughout the last 5 years, some really top name players. So maybe he keeps the recruiting going, I don't know.
Yeah. And as a North Carolina fan who doesn't follow Duke basketball that much, other than okay, we're going to play Duke, so what are we doing? We might want to bring Tim in to get Tim's opinion or another Duke expert. To me, it makes sense. And Ryan, like you just said, I like the move. It's like, okay, this is our guy. He's gonna
see. I like the move because of the loyalty. Like, yo, I'm Coach K. I'm known. This is who's coaching. I don't care. You ain't opening nothing up. We're not interviewing. No, Shire's the next coach. And that's one thing I thought. I don't know if Roy gave his blessing, but I was like, okay, I get it. You want to open it up. But I think if Royce would have stepped out and been like, nope, Hubert's the guy. Or, Coach Rob is the guy, whatever. I think that would have been pretty cool to say. Mm-hmm. And look, here's the thing. Coach K could be dead wrong. Mm-hmm. He could be, who knows? We don't know if Hubert Davis can coach yet. We don't know if Shire can coach. We'll figure it out, though, soon. Yeah.
A fun fact that I read, though, and I think this also speaks to the greatness, is there's only one coach that has a winning record against Mike Shashefsky, and it's Dean Smith. So that's where they were saying that they're hoping that Hubert Davis can sweep Duke this year in the regular season, and then they can say that two North Carolina head coaches have a winning record against them. So I thought that was pretty interesting, at least looking at that. So anyways, let's start to wrap this thing up, and we'll be able to follow Coach K's victory tour here throughout the year. So Ryan, go ahead and give me your final thoughts before we wrap this up.
One's a shout out, the Grizz. What a great year for them. Mm-hmm. Dylan Brooks seems like he's become a legit defender and a great player in the league for his, basically skill set. Jaren Jackson wasn't even healthy, only played like a handful of games this year, and he's a super talent. Ja obviously looks crazy. For them to beat Steph Curry and don't even look, we're in the middle of recording this. We're watching LeBron. We're gonna kill him for this. Mm-hmm. We let Steph slide on everything. Steph loses to Ja Morant and a team that's not even that great, and we don't talk about the next day. So for them to beat them, a championship season team, and then to go in that first round and get a game, shout to them. They're ahead of schedule, I think. Mm-hmm. But looking forward, my favorite series coming up, I cannot wait for Nets Bucks. Yeah. I want to see Giannis versus KD. To me, that's such a great matchup. KD, to me, is the greatest offensive player now. Luka kind of, but KD scoring, at least, best scorer I've seen. And then Giannis is kind of the freak of nature defender. Mm-hmm. I love the cross matchups in that series. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Ben? Final thoughts.
My final thought is, as we're recording, Lakers made a mini run, but they're still down 24.
Still down 24.
And that was after a 10-0 run, give or take. I really hope LeBron goes to work.
Booker.
Yeah.
I hope LeBron goes to work and actually earns. Look, man, I'm a Jordan guy, but I'm open-minded enough to say I could see making the case for LeBron. He has to earn it in moments like these. I'm not even saying they have to win the game. He just has to play balls out the rest of this game. I'm going to be real pissed if he quits.
And that's the thing. We've seen him do it. I mean, some of the best moments as a Heat fan was when they were losing in series.
Game 6 versus the Celtics. He went
the desperation
nuts.
Kicked in. Yeah. Even the games you're saying, okay, yeah, that's all-time great. You didn't miss a shot. It wasn't like you tried super hard. You just made every shot. Games like Game 6 of the finals where, he started turning the ball over and missing a bunch of threes, but by God, he was going to do it. It wasn't like he was going to go out losing it on his own.
Right. When he lost his headband, he went nuts. He played incredible.
On a crazy run and then had a couple turnovers and a couple missed shots, but it wasn't because he wasn't trying or lack of effort.
To me, I think it's more forgivable to miss some shots and turn the ball over because of aggression than it is to lose the game because you decided Dennis Schrader and KCP are going to shoot all your shots down the stretch of this game, or even in the middle of it at this point. I really want to see him just play they have to win.
No, that's to me the best thing about NBA throughout my life watching is a champion or a wounded champion on desperation where, starting with Michael Jordan's Bulls, they'd be down, in the fourth quarter, and him, Ron Harper, and Scotty and Dennis Rodman would just full court press you in the NBA and just start taking the ball and going to the rim neck first. LeBron and the Heat, those teams. I mean, That's some of my favorite. The Warriors, when
Yeah.
they would have their death lineup in, and they would just close you out and run you down. That's some of the best stuff in sports. Is that.
I mean, and even you go back a generation, like the '87 Celtics losing, right? But playing beautiful basketball, and Larry Bird missing the shot in Game 4 could have changed it. Like that's where, like, I almost feel like your GOAT case, your championship medal can go up even in a loss if you play like that. Like Isaiah Thomas scored 25 points on a broken ankle or whatever it was, right? They lost the game or the series, but his stature goes up because of even that loss, because you played like a champion. I can't stand it when it looks like he quits, man. I just can't stand it.
Agreed.
But hey, as always, let us know what you are thinking. Hey, we're back finally. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but we're back. We're planning on getting more content out to you. We have some cool stuff planned for you in the future as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. You're liking us on Facebook. For Ben Sperry, Ryan Steele, I'm Mitch Shreve. This has been another episode of the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. We'll see you next time.
I'm Ben Sperry, and this was the Give and Go Basketball Podcast.